Today I'm going to show you how to make cat crinkle toys. We use fabric scraps, some really inexpensive stuffing materials, and a free pattern in order to make these really inexpensive pet toys. So let's get to it. First, take the pattern and trace it on 2 pieces of fabric. I suggest pre-washing this fabric beforehand. Now that you have those 2 pieces of fabric, you're going to want to cut a smaller pattern piece out of the crinkle fabric. So in this case, I used a potato chip bag and I turned it inside out and washed it to be sure to get all the fat and the oils off of it. Let it dry, and then I used a Sharpie to trace around the pattern piece. If you don't want to have potato chips in your home or you don't have any snack bags, I suggest using a Dollar Tree sunshade. This works really well as well, and it has just a little bit of cushioning in it. You can get a lot of pattern pieces off of that sunshade. So now put the 2 pieces of fabric with the pretty sides touching, and you are going to be sewing around the edge, leaving a gap of about 2 inches in order to stuff it. I used a 1/4 inch seam allowance to sew around. Be sure to back stitch at the beginning and end of your stitching to reinforce it. Now with all of these curves, I suggest, and also corners, notching or clipping the curves so that the pattern can be turned inside out easier. You may also want to trim off some of the excess seam allowance and notch into those corners. All of this is so that when you turn the piece inside out, that the edges will turn easier. So just be sure not to clip the stitches, but clip close to the stitches. Now we're going to be turning that pattern piece out. This can be a little fussy since it is small, but just take your time. I highly suggest using a turning tool to get these little corners, such as the ears, or if you use the fish pattern that I have, the tail corners. Definitely want to use something to push out those corners and tiny little edges. Then after you are done doing that, this is a great time to press with a hot iron if you want to get out any wrinkles and really smooth down those seams. So now you put in the crinkle fabric inside. Be sure to use your fingers or a turning tool to get the crinkly fabric into all the little ears or the crevices and just have it lay flat inside there. Now that you have that in there, you can add some polyfill if you want to make it like a more plush toy. Totally up to you. You can also add some catnip at this point if you would like. All of those things are optional. So now turn under that fabric that is at the opening. You're going to pin it, and now you are going to hand stitch it closed. I used a simple ladder stitch. You can just use simple straight stitching to close this, and you're done. You can get the free pattern templates as well as written instructions when you visit my blog post on easythingstosew.com. I will put a link to that in the description below.